G'day, A-League couch critics. That's us. It's also you, I guess. You sit on the couch and you watch the A-League, and it's coming
This is
to an
Australia. It's not a couch. It's a freaking lounge.
end. That's
Anyway,
true.
we
We make the
went couch
lounge
for the
critics.
alliteration. Anyway, go on.
Uh, the A-League season's come to an end. Eight more games to go. Big weekend of fixtures coming up, and so we're going to chat just before the end of the season. Who's going to make the top six?
Mm,
It was looking pretty tight up until last weekend. There was something like 6 points between second and 10th, something
mm,
like that. It was ridiculous. It's maybe gotten a little bit more obvious now, but still, from the Mariners in second on 28 points down to seventh place, Newcastle, only 4 points in it, two
mm.
games results. And Macarthur, Brisbane, and Perth really aren't that far out of it. They're only 4 points off the top six. Maybe it's just that little bit too far for Western and Melbourne to victory to turn things around. But what an exciting A-League season. This has been one of the
Mm.
closest we've ever had. Um, Bradley, let's go through them. Who's making the top six? Who are you saying?
Well, I think Melbourne City's a lock for about everyone right now. If they don't win the minor premiership or the Premier's Plate, sorry, I think gosh, I mean, it must
What
have
a
been
joke.
some kind of disaster there because I don't see them missing out on it. They're 9 points clear of second place with a game in hand, so that could potentially be 12 points. Um, So I don't think City miss it. Listen, I think second, third, fourth's a lock. Mariners, Wanderers, United, Adelaide United. Not necessarily in that order, but I think they're a lock for the finals. I think Sydney FC is probably a lock as well. Wellington, I think Wellington's probably the only other team that could fall out. Sydney FC depends on what Sydney FC is going to show up. Is it going to be the one that beats the Wanderers, or is it going to be the one that can't beat Brisbane? What Sydney FC is going to show up, but I think they should be finishing the six. I mean, I guess Wellington, they've kind of snuck under the radar as they always do. Maybe Newcastle could sneak in. I think MacArthur's in free fall. I think if they're playing like this at the start of the season, I think they'd be lucky to win any games. And Ulysses De Vere is gone as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think Brisbane and Perth don't have a chance. I think Western United, Melbourne Victory are probably the teams more likely to put on a run together, but I think they're just that far behind that they've probably got no hope. Um, yeah, Samuel, what do you think?
Yeah, look, it's just been a season of consistent inconsistency from a lot of teams.
Mm,
You'd have to say Melbourne, Central Coast, Western Sydney, and Adelaide, they deserve to be where they are in that top four. And I think
mm,
by far they're the top four this year round. Like they're so consistent. You're looking at just the last 5 games for Adelaide, no losses. Western Sydney Wanderers only dropped the one lot of points in their last 5 games in the derby. So, that's how it goes sometimes. Mariners have only lost one of the last 5 as well. So those teams are looking solid, and yeah, absolutely. I think they're consistent enough to ride those out. They're all strong at home and give a real good account of themselves away from home.
mm.
And then you start to get into the teams that just haven't really ever been able to put good runs together. So Wellington Phoenix, their home form is always kind of pretty good.
Mm.
They've got a good crowd behind them there, but when they drop points there, it really hurts them. Yeah, you're right. With Sydney, it's just been a bit of a mixed bag of a season for them. They
Mm.
turned up one week, play awesome. The next week, they couldn't break down a under sixes team. Like you got to wonder what's really going on in the club there, why things aren't clicking, and the defense is still just
And
an
Steve
absolute
Corica
shambles.
was what 2 months ago? 2 months ago, he was gone. He was going to get sacked, and now you got to
Yeah,
say, well, probably not. Um, Still a lot
he's
of
turned
football
it
to play.
around. Yeah, he's turned it
Has he
around
turned it
somewhat.
around, or has it the players that have turned it around? That's the question.
Yeah, well,
But at the moment, you probably keeping it. Well, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But yeah,
yeah, and like the Jets, they before their loss to Western,
mm,
7 games unbeaten. Like, where's that come from? And
mm,
yet still, I wouldn't back them against any of the top six sides. Like
yeah,
if they're coming up against top six sides, gee, it's going to be unlikely. Yeah, like you said, MacArthur, they could end up underneath Victory and Western at this rate, the way that they are just absolutely dropping off,
Hmm.
which I think leaves Brisbane Roar and Perth. Have they got it in it? They've got 4 points to kind of jump into the finals. 5 if we're talking to get ahead of Wellington
Hmm.
Phoenix. Perth are great at home, but they're finished at Macedonia Park.
I
So
think
they're
they've got
heading back
one game left, I think.
one more game at Macedonia Park. So can they make the most of that kind of atmosphere to really push them?
Mm,
Because it's unlikely that they're going to snatch that many points away from home. They really have to if they're going to have any hope of making the finals.
mm.
Brisbane are on the new manager bounce. Obviously, Warren Moon got sacked after the draw with Sydney. You go, that was actually a pretty decent result for them. Um, was it? He was in charge for that, wasn't he? It
I
was
believe
after
so,
that,
yeah. Yeah.
and so they won last week. But it's tough to tell whether or not they'll make it. So for a really close A-League season, I think the top 6 probably is locked. I don't really see Wellington slipping out like you do. I just don't think Jets have it in them
Yeah.
unless they have a particularly nice set of fixtures like coming up. Like,
The Jets do play Wellington this weekend. As we record this, we'll make sure we get it out before that game.
yeah,
And then Wellington have to play Sydney FC and then away to Adelaide. Who have Newcastle got that time? They're at home to Adelaide and then they're at home to Perth. So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think the next couple of weeks will be telling for Newcastle because I think they've actually flown on the radar. I haven't realised how close they've been to the top 6.
Yeah.
In fact, have they been in the top 6? They haven't been in the top 6 since like week 9 of the comp. But
Yeah.
they've been close, and I guess that's all you really need. Yeah.
It's
Is there any team?
definitely
What's the team most likely in the top 6 you reckon will fall out? Is it Wellington? Is it Sydney FC?
yeah, look, I honestly don't know which Sydney FC turns up. You know, they've got the big blue this weekend.
Mm,
They were pretty disappointing last time it was in Sydney and then really good down there.
mm.
It's week on week a different Sydney FC turns up every time. And, you know, can Rodwell get fit enough to actually make a difference towards the end of the season? Who knows? He was at least named in the squad last week and didn't come on. So that's positive. Wellington, I really like their front line. They've got a really good attack. Like they can make things happen. Kraev and who's the other guy up top for them?
There's the one, the Polish guy,
Yeah, Zavada. That's
Oscar.
it.
Yeah, Oscar. So yeah, that one.
Awesome guys. And they've got a great goalkeeper in Ollie Sale. Like,
Hmm.
can they drop out? Yeah, it's hard to say. I think Newcastle Jets have quite a tough run in. They've still got to play City. They've got to play Sydney. They've got to play Central Coast and Adelaide. So they pretty much have to play 5 of the top 6 in their last 8 games,
Hmm.
as well as a game against Macarthur and Perth, I think.
Hmm.
So I think it's hard to see them picking up the points they need to jump over Sydney or Wellington. So I think actually the top 6 we've got now is probably where it's going to end up.
That's a pretty boring video then.
It is.
Okay, well, we'll be talking about those are the teams that are going to make the top 6. Where do we think everyone's going to finish? Oh, we'll
Yeah.
lock in Melbourne City for first for both of us. I think that's fair to say.
Sure. Yeah. I think that we're going to see Adelaide United jump. So they've got Melbourne City this weekend, but then they've got Newcastle, Wellington, or actually Wanderers. Gee, it's tough, isn't it? Like the final day, actually, Adelaide play Central Coast Mariners. I'm going to say Adelaide take out second place. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to let my bias show. I'm going to say that Adelaide take out second, Central Coast take out third, and Wanderers end up 6th because Sydney FC are going to jump them
Okay.
in 4th and Wellington are going to be 5th.
Right. Okay.
Wanderers are about to fall off a cliff.
All right.
You
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
my prediction.
Right.
What about you, Bradley? What's
Are
your
we
top
going to
six?
get a serious prediction from you, or are we just going to get?
No, that's my serious prediction.
Oh,
You've heard
sure,
it
sure.
here.
Okay.
Wanderers, Marcelo's out, and they're gonna.
Marcelo's out. He was back
Yeah,
last week.
he'll be out again. They're gonna
Right.
crumble. Heard it here
Right.
first.
Well, my unbiased opinion, the Wanderers are going to finish first. No, well, obviously Melbourne City's going to finish first. I think the Wanderers are coming into form right now, and I think they're going to take it second. I think Adelaide are going to come third. I think the Mariners. I'm just quickly looking at who they're playing. I think they could potentially slip down to fourth or maybe fifth. They've got quite a few. I think they've got Brian Caltech out this weekend. They've got another guy out this weekend, and they're playing the Wanderers. And of course, they'll be backing the Wanderers in that. I think the Mariners will probably slip to fourth or maybe fifth. I think they'll fight over that spot with Sydney FC. And I think, let's go Newcastle to sneak in at 6. We're going to be interesting. I think it's possible. I think 6 is going to be really close. And I think they're not a bad team, Newcastle. They're not a great team. They're not a bad team. They're a decent team.
They'd be exciting in the finals, absolutely.
Yeah, and it probably goes to show. You watch these videos the past couple of years, we probably sound like we hate Wellington. And I don't think I hate them, but I just don't rate them. And, maybe that's my problem because I live on the other side of the ditch and
The Dutch.
I don't really rate them.
Is that why you wore your Dutch shirt today?
Yep.
Other side of the Dutch.
Yep. I'm wearing my Dutch shirt, even though New Zealand is named after New Zealand's a region in the Netherlands, isn't it? Anyway. Yeah. I reckon we've got to spice up. I reckon Newcastle will probably sneak into 6, but if I was going to be biased, I would say Sydney FC are going to go into free fall. And Newcastle and Wellington are both going to play finals, but I don't know. They could, but I don't think they're going to be that bad. So, yeah, probably, yeah. So, what? Melbourne City, Wanderers, Adelaide, Mariners, Sydney FC, and Newcastle.
Interesting. Okay. And I guess finally, let's make a prediction going right here, right now. Can anyone stop Melbourne City, or have they got the championship wrapped up as well?
I don't think they have the championship wrapped up. I think they've definitely got the premiership, like the Premier's Plate wrapped up. But I think like last year, we had any other year we know finals was a completely different ball game. I think was Melbourne City missing Jamie McLaren, all those other Socceroos for last year's grand final? Yeah, so they were woeful in that grand final. And obviously the home ground, well, they're not going to be playing at home. It's most likely it's going to be either at CommBank or Allianz Stadium. And if they're playing someone like the Mariners or the Wanderers in a grand final, they're going to get a pretty hostile reception. Imagine if Melbourne City
people show up.
Yeah, imagine. I mean, wouldn't you though? Like, my team has not played the finals in 6 years, and you think I'm not going to go to the finals because of a shit decision made by the APL?
Yeah.
I'd go to the finals. I'd go to the grand final. I know that might be a controversial opinion, but I want to back my club. And the APL have made it very clear they're not going to change the decision. So we can protest. It's not going to change anything. It's not a good look for the APL, but I want to, see my team win a grand final. So I'd go to it. Anyway, grand final. I don't think it's necessarily going to be City. I think you'd think on paper it would be. I'd like to think it's not going to be that easy. I like to think the Wanderers are a chance. I think Adelaide are a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come finals football, you got to play a two-legged game in that first week. How does Sydney FC go? What Sydney FC turns up if they make the finals?
I'm just saying Sydney are one of only 2 teams to beat Melbourne City all season. So
yeah, we haven't lost to Melbourne City either.
So look, I think City are probably just too strong, and I think they'll just continue that in the finals. Tiller's just taken McLaren's place. Looks incredible. So I think they're too strong. But I think we might leave it there for the end of this video. Make sure to leave your top 6 prediction down in the comments. Only 8 rounds to go. Plenty of good football to come. It's going to get good. Just imagine if we had that final day, all simultaneous kickoffs. And who knows what could happen? Teams getting into the 6, teams fighting for second, get that home semi-final. who knows? Could be good. Anyway, we'll catch you around. We'll see you next time after this week's games. We'll catch you around like yourself
See you.
or football. They're around.